Hello and welcome back to Pulling the Perfect Key in Avid with me, Ben Brownlee from Boris FX. Now, this is part 2 of our series, and currently we have gotten here. So we've pulled our primary key, we've gotten a pretty decent result, keeping in lots of hair detail, but we've still got some work to do on the key itself. Now, we're not going to focus on that at all. We're actually going to get into what I think is one of the most important parts of pulling a key, and that is spill suppression. Now, color spill happens when you have a brightly lit green screen or blue screen, and that light reflects back onto your subject, creating sort of maybe a halo around the edges. Let's just zoom in a little bit here. You see a bit of a halo around the edge there, or in semi-transparent areas, you can see this often quite well. Now, this was shot on a green screen. Our background is pretty green, so a lot of the actual color spill is being hidden by the green. Now, this is actually pretty good for this particular clip. Now, obviously, you're not going to be using a nice green background on every single one of your clips. So let's see what happens when we have a non-green background. And I'm just going to take us back into dual monitors, and I'll load in a different background here. So yeah, this a little bit wobbly. So let's just put in this new background temporarily just to see what we can see. We'll just mark that out. And we'll just put our clip in there. There we go. Okay, and we'll reset our layout again, and let's undo the bypass. Okay, so now if we zoom out a little bit on this clip, you can see a bit better, actually a lot better, all of the spill, the green spill that's happening in this hair here. So let's zoom out a little bit and see how we can start to deal with the spill. So we've got different ways of dealing with the spill, with things like the spill sponge, where we can just come in and just sort of draw over an area that we have spill on, and that'll try to analyze the pixels and try to balance out the spill there. There's actually an easy way of doing this as of the 2020 release. Let's zoom in even further here so we can really see what this is going to be doing in a second. And I'm actually going to hide my UI in the viewer, and I'm going to come over to the effect editor and have a look at spill here. So we've got some more complex ways of dealing with the spill. And in our drop down, we have the spill replace mode, either complement, which tries to put a complementary color in there, solid background, which replaces things with a solid color, unsurprisingly, and we get to choose what that color is. There we go. Or we can do a softened version of the background. And if we have a softened version of the background in there, we tell Primatte Studio what our background is. So we can either use the filtered layer itself, or one layer below, or the second layer below. I'm going to move back to complement, and I'm going to slide my spill suppressing down. So this is what the image looks like without any sort of spill suppressor. And you see there's a lot more green coming through in the fine hair over there. Now, in the 2020 release of Primatte Studio, we had a new feature put in, which is the secondary spill remover. And at the moment, it's just one button, and I'm going to turn this on now. And turn it off, and on again. And you can see the huge difference that actually makes. If you wanted to, you could also come in, twirl this down, and change things like the removal method, or the screen type, and even change up the bias. But in most cases, I would say that just the auto is going to do the job for you here. And that looks just really nice. Now, the great thing about having these two different types of spill remover is that we can also mix them together. So we can have most of the stuff working with our secondary spill remover, but we can also turn up the regular spill replace just a little bit as well. Oftentimes you can find that maybe mixing back just a small amount, maybe 10% of the original spill replace, is going to give you an even better result. It's just going to create slightly different colors within the edges of the hair and give you a bit more of a natural result there. So without the spill remover and with the spill remover. Now, the reason I say that this is one of the most important parts of pulling a key is because doing proper spill suppression means that you can use a lighter touch when actually pulling your key itself. So if we didn't have the spill remover and we wanted to get rid of this green, the temptation is often to come in and refine this mat and sort of pull the mat back quite a lot. And you end up with things like spidery hair or just an unnatural smooth edge around the key because you've actually keyed your subject too much and gone too far. We can even do that with the matte refinement here, where you have to sort of try and shrink things back a little bit to try and get rid of that, spill, and you end up with horrible looking hair, which you then try and soften out a little bit more and blur and choke and do all the sort of weird and wonderful stuff, and you don't really get a fantastic result out of it. And the great thing about doing spill remover is that you can keep in a lot more of those details there. It's not just for hair, it's also for clothing, for moving fabrics, and for things like motion blur as well. So it's a really, really important stage of your keying. And as you can see, this spill remover has also taken away that green edge that I had around my arm there as well. And that's looking not too bad at all. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to get rid of the temporary background I had, and now I can just play this back. And that's starting to shape up into something that's looking rather nice. So now we've done our primary key, we've done our spill suppression. We've still got a few areas we need to look at. In the next section, we're going to be dealing with what happens on the sword here, and also taking out the nonsense on the background as well. And to do that, we're going to be creating hold in and hold out masks. And I'll show you how Primatte Studio makes fast work out of something that could usually be quite a challenging process. But for now, my name is Ben Brownlee from Boris FX, and thanks for continuing the journey with me in this series, Pulling the Perfect Key in Avid. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, consider hitting the like button. It really makes a difference. If you have any interesting war stories about terrible green screens or ones that have been really challenging, then let me know in the comments below.